You looked like a little steamboat.
A chainsaw chain may not be cutting well for three reasons. The first reason, and maybe the most obvious, is because the teeth, which are these right here, are not sharpened properly. A dull tooth means a chain that doesn't cut. Obviously, the second most common reason is because of the length of this part here, which is called the depth gauge or depth gauge, and it's the part responsible for giving us the thickness of the chip when we cut. I hope you can see it, but there's a height difference between the depth gauge and the tooth. That space you see there is basically the thickness of the chip. When we cut, the teeth have a slight angle. If you notice, as we keep sharpening them, this tooth will get lower. And to compensate for that, we also have to keep lowering our depth gauge. About every 4 or 5 times I sharpen the teeth, I like to lower them. And the third reason why a chain might not cut well, and maybe the least common and the least known, is the geometry of the tooth. This part here of the tooth, which is called the gullet, has to have a much more pronounced C shape, a much more pronounced curve than this tooth currently has. Why did this happen? Most likely because when we were sharpening the chain, we were applying too much upward pressure and we ended up grinding away the upper part of the tooth. But the good news is that we can trim and recover this tooth by sharpening it again and applying a bit of force downward and inward. If we lose that curve, this tooth won't cut wood. Our depth gauge might be fine and the tooth might also be well sharpened. I mean, let's say this part cuts, but if the attack angle isn't correct, if we don't have that curve, the tooth won't cut. A lot of people go through this. They end up buying a new chain when it's not necessary at all. We can simply reshape it. With a round file,
We're going to use this round file.
applying strong downward and inward force to remove some material here. There you can already notice that the curve is starting to show.
Un poquito más.
I like to finish with a few gentle passes. And finish with a little upward pressure to create the burr at the tip of the tooth. And we're all set. Here you can clearly see the difference. We've formed our curve. The gullet has a good profile. And now this chain is going to cut really well. If after repairing the chain, you end up with teeth that are much shorter than the others. Honestly, it's not ideal, but it's not that bad either. Try to maintain the same depth difference between the teeth and the depth gauge. And maybe the chainsaw won't cut with all the teeth at the same time. The shorter teeth tend to have less contact with the wood, but at least you'll have a chain that cuts. In an ideal world, all our teeth are the same length. But we all know that real life doesn't work that way. This tooth that's coming in is also missing a bit of steel. And you can tell there's C but not but, it's still missing a bit of. Much better. Let's check that one. It's relatively good. 2. It's better. It could improve, but it's much better than the first one we fixed. To make sure all the teeth cut at the same depth, we can use these guides that are super common and easy to get. They sell them at any store or distributor where they sell chains, chainsaws, accessories, etc., etc. And it's super easy to use. We just have to place it like this so that the tip of the tooth rests right here. And once we place the guide, we use this flat file to lower the depth gauge. I like to round off the gauge a little bit once it's lowered so that passing through the wood is a bit smoother. Now we have to move forward a little and do the same thing. We rest the guide on the tooth, and here you can see there's a slight drop. That drop, the size of that drop, is the thickness of the chip we want to remove. There are people who like more aggressive cuts, especially if they have more powerful chainsaws and want to cut faster, and they lower the gauges a bit more. That depends on each person's preference, but I can tell you that kickbacks are much more common with gauges lowered below the standard. With a more aggressive cut, the kickback will also be more aggressive. If you're just starting out, I recommend you use this guide. And don't overthink it. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you've ever lost the profile, the C-curve, let me know in the comments. I'm curious how many of you have experienced this. If you fix it, let me know your results. Sending you all a hug, take care, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye-bye.